Commissioner Forsey?
Here.
Commissioner Bird?
Here.
Commissioner Eastman?
Here.
Commissioner Now?
Here.
Commissioner Stabler?
Here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens' comments. Hearing none, consent agenda.
One moment, please. I have a motion to accept the recommendation of the Administration and Finance Committee to approve two items of minutes, which are the Committee of the Whole held on January 6th, 2016, and the board meeting held on January 20th, 2016, and the financial reports, which include two items. One, the budget report and cash on hand dated January 31st, 2016, and two, the voucher list dated February 17th, 2016, in the amount of $167,497.02, subject to audit.
Is there a second? Second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Bird?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashka?
Aye.
Commissioner Now?
Aye.
Commissioner Forsey? Commissioner Stabler?
Director's report.
Just two items, just a reminder that today at 1 o'clock is the Cold Brews and Blues at the Civic Center, so if you have an opportunity, please stop by. And again, Wednesday, here at the boardroom at 6:30 is a workshop with Chuck Wallen. So if there's anything that comes up, please let me know. And that concludes my report.
Unfinished business, administration and finance.
Great. So, I'm sorry.
Budget review and capital plan, that's what we're doing?
That is correct. So, staff has been diligently working on preparing the FY16-17 budget as well as the capital plan. And what we are presenting to you today is that with an opportunity for you to look over funds, line items, give questions, comments, anything of that nature that you may need, anything that raises a flag to you so that we can openly explain those items to you so that you have a greater understanding of what this budget is all about. And then after that, we'll go into the capital plan. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to Marty, who is our really sort of our budget master, sort of that webmaster, the one that keeps all the plates spinning.
Well, sounds like a good start off. I don't know if hopefully we'll keep them all spinning at least for a couple hours now. So I'm just going to start us out with, we're proposing a budget for 2016-17 and are roughly projecting a budget of $5,600,000, which is approximately around 1.6% over the budget of 15-16 that we approved in the past. For the most part, we've projected revenues and expenditures. We're mostly trying to keep them. They've mostly been following about. We project our revenues to go up maybe less than 1% on the taxes and other various revenues. Rec revenues we project to go up a little more, but I'll get into that when I get to the rec funding budget. Just to give us a short example of what we have, the Park District has about 11 funds, and most of those funds are just either statutory or funds that we need in order to operate as a Park District. So I'll start out with the corporate fund first. The corporate fund is mostly handles all our administrative expenses, our expenses that we have, board expenses, anything that does not fit in another fund is usually a corporate fund expenditure. Next is our rec fund. We have 4 sections of our rec fund. That would be administration, programs, pools, and the fitness center. And each one of those, the rec mostly handles all the administrative side of the rec, and that's where we have tax levy against. The pools are standalone. They make enough. The receipts from the pools are supposed to equal expenditures of the pool. The fitness center, the facility, or the facility in a whole, and then the the program budget. And the program budget is mostly everything that that is sort of a standalone program where the revenues equal the expenditures of running a particular program such as the baseball, volleyball, or Full Brews today. Next, we would go into we have the police fund, which is our fund that we use to fund the police force for the Park District. It's to do the security, to oversee the policing part of the Park District. Then we have some smaller funds we don't use as much, paving and lighting, and that stands well. Then we roll into museum. Museum is our building over by Howard Pool, 6210. Yeah, and that was and that's just the funds to operate our museum and to not only have enough to build enough revenue and to run our whole museum program. And then the next 5 programs are more statutory. We have to keep them just in order to operate. And that's our IMRF, which is our Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, FICA, which is our Social Security Fund, liability, which is for that covers our general liability, umbrella liability, and unemployment. Special rec, that's our Manassas portion that we put a levy out to handle the fees for offering special rec services to the residents of Morton Grove. And then our audit fund, which is to conduct our external audit. And finally, we have our bond and interest fund, which is our bonds that we sell to our capital needs. And we've just completed our bond sale just recently for $1,674,000, which we're going to repay back in 2 years. Okay. So, is there any questions, or did I?
Just for clarification,
Yes.
this is Jeff's first budget, so I think it's only fair that when we go through each one down the line, and if anybody has any questions, we'll
Right.
go from there.
Well, I was just going to start us out with just a general cover of all the funds, and then I was going to lead into that.
Okay.
So, which we can start right into there now because I'm going to lead into first. This is page 1. This is the corporate fund revenues. How we establish our corporate fund revenues is the first one is property tax. And I can either address I'm going to address them all because they're pretty much the same for all funds that collect property taxes. Is that we collected approximately $3,100,000 in property taxes for the year 2015. The levy of 2014 collected in 2015.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the figure?
$3,100,000. Of that amount, approximately $780,000 was to repay the bond and interest, the bonds that were sold in 2014. Then and any other interest that accrued on those bonds. Then
I'm sorry, can you repeat that
Oh,
figure too?
um,
331?
we levied $3,100,000 in property taxes. Part of that was $780,000, which was for a repayment of prior bonds. Those are GO bonds that are tax-supported bonds. We do it every 2 years. Though the 2-year bond we just issued for 2016 was just approved last board meeting. But the bond before that, the one we did around January or December of 2013, January of 2014, was for $1.5 million. Of that, we paid it evenly over 2 years, so we paid $750,000 in 2014 and $750,000 in 2015, plus interest, which was at 1.45%. So when we submit the levy for the bonds, we have to build enough money to pay both the principal and interest, and so that combination comes out to roughly around $780,000 per year. So in the last levy and the last property tax collection that we did, the amount of $3,780,000 was for bond and interest. So that leaves approximately $2.4 million for other activities of the park district.
Yeah.
So about 30% for debt service.
25, 28, around there. So then, after that, then we have statutory, various funds that have to be supported statutorily, such as the IMRF, the FICA, which is Social Security, the Special Rec Fund, liability insurance. And so after we calculate all the mandatory costs that eat up our property tax levy, the remaining amount that we have that we put against funds for programs and personnel costs and other operating of the park district would be about $1.4 million. So $1.4 million. And then, so when we divided it up, that's where that first $1 million is in the corporate fund. That's the portion of the property taxes that's covering operating costs of the $1.4 million. And $1.4 million was 2015, so we expect it to go up by about 0.7%. That's the projected CPI for property taxes for the year, the levy of 2015 to be collected in 2016. And plus, we're under the assumption we may have, we don't know what kind of property tax freeze we may run into. So we're taking a very conservative estimate and assuming that property taxes, 0.07% is a very low addition. It'll probably be $3 million. It'll probably be about $50,000 or so additional property taxes we're estimating. But if a property tax freeze comes in, we may adjust it down a little bit. But for the most part, we're making it based on the fact that if there was a property tax freeze, it would freeze the operating funds and not the bond and interest fund. That's the assumption right now. So we're going with a very conservative estimate on property taxes for year 16-17. So, is there any questions on the property taxes or? The next source of revenue for us is replacement tax. The replacement tax is it comes from the state of Illinois. It's levied against corporate profits. It's based on everybody who was collecting money in 1978 under the ordinance of personal property tax. It replaced it because it was declared unconstitutional by the courts. So there was another tax replacing it called the personal property replacement tax that levied against corporate profits. And everybody that was in the PRT, or the personal property tax at the time, it was abolished, became part of the new fund. But your percentage of the receipts, it was always locked in at what it was locked in at the time that it was created. So back in 1978, whatever our portion of the total is, that's what it'll always be. So right now we're projecting around $185,000 for personal property tax across all funds. The corporate fund has taken up about $91,000 of it, and the museum and fund and police fund are taking up the remainder. And we'll get into that when we get down farther into the report. Interest income, we have approximately $6 million in liquid cash that we invest in the type of investments that our investment policy allows, such as FHA, bonds, Fed T-bills, things like that. So we're projecting probably about a 50 basis points to 75 basis points on that money. So that's less than 1%, but because it's safe investments, they don't pay that well. So some of our smaller amounts of money that we can put into CDs below $250,000 at some of the banks, we get better payoff. We can get maybe 1% on them. But so we're projecting around $32,000 in interest income for our entire investment portfolio. Miscellaneous income are just other things that come in for general sponsorships, the monies that we, it's just our catch-all for everything that we don't have a specific account for. District 767, it's going to be 0 now. And Manassas rental income is, every year we renegotiate our Manassas contract. They're paying us, last year, $58,260, roughly $5,700 a month. It's $4,700 a month. We're projecting, I believe in the contract, based on, because it's coming up for negotiation for the next budget cycle, but this budget cycle, I believe it's a 1.1% increase, so 1.01% of what it was before. So we're projecting it'll reach up to 60,000 in 2016-17. Any questions? I don't know if I'm going too fast, or does anybody have you want me to go into anything more detail, or?
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Oh, okay. Next, we're going to go into the expenditure side. We break down our expenditures under certain headings on the state, and our reports that we have to do, and our appropriation is based on headings. So salary is a heading, materials and supplies, insurance, utilities, contractual services are all what they would call subcategories to the corporate fund. So we group our expenditures by those subcategories. So the first subcategory would be salaries and wages. And we go down and we take what our best estimate of what the salaries or wages are going to be. We adjust it based on the fact that maybe a position is open. We also adjust it for the fact that there's merit increases that may be coming up in the future, adjustments that merit increases for the start of a budget year, and we take all those figures and we budgeted a 3% on all those figures to come up with the amounts of what we budget for those positions in 16-17.
Now, you're showing the aggregate number for
Yes.
each of these job descriptions. Are these, say, the directors that amortized against several different funds?
No,
Just the corporate?
just the corporate.
I know years ago, we took a portion of that and put it up against the museum fund.
Right.
Because there's some overlap of duties there.
Right.
So that it would take the burden off the corporate fund.
That's
Yeah, but this is a lot cleaner too.
Well, cleaner is nice, but it's proper accounting to amortize it off.
right.
And it
Well,
frees up dollars in the corporate fund.
that's true, but we have a limited levy, and all of those are levy-supported funds. So it's if there was another source of income against those funds, maybe it would be beneficial. But you adjust certain things, like you lose a little of a cost distribution, but you gain a clarity or a transparency on a budget where one person's in one fund. And you can disperse it out, but some funds that they did disperse it out to the past may not be allowed. For example, there may have been costs in the capital projects funds for those titles that when we sell bonds, we're supposed to sell bonds that are for asset-related purchases. And unless that person that you're putting there is 100% related to that capital asset-related purchase, you can't put a portion of his salary in there. You either have to have, like, for example, let's say you had another executive director who was just in charge of capital purchases. His whole salary could be in capital, but not a portion of it, because we don't do cost accounting and timesheet allocations, so we don't know exactly if, he might say he works there 20%, but he might have worked there 10%, and we won't know that unless he breaks down his pay salary every single paycheck. So, and then we run into sort of the same thing with IMRF and Social Security. The only ones that would fit is the rec fund and maybe museum and police, where we could disperse the salary out. But we felt that it would be more transparent to find it in one place than in 7 different places.
How long have they been doing it that way?
We just started
Yeah, when?
2014.
I think it's a great, I mean, you really see it.
Well, you've seen true picture before.
It's just, you gotta chase all over. I mean, if somebody wants to really look at this thing, if a resident really wanted to look at this thing, they're going crazy trying to figure out why is it over here, why is it over here? This is really the nuts and bolts.
I agree with you, but more for the reasons Marty was for.
Oh, yeah, but look at these people
No, it
looking at it
is,
too.
yeah, you know,
They're probably saying, why does this guy have money over here, money over there? I mean, it's, they're not coming to the meetings.
yeah, but I
understand
think that happens with almost any scheme, whatever accounting scheme you, and I'm just using the scheme neutral way, you know, whatever method, you know, you use, it takes some energy and effort to figure out everything that's going on. But yeah, I think I look at this and I do have a couple questions. I'm waiting for what you say before I ask any questions. But yeah, I think it's you can understand it if you put the time in the way we're
But
doing
if
it
your
now.
corporate fund is maxed out,
Right, which goes back to
and you can increase, and the only places where you can increase your levy is paving and lighting to a certain extent, and where there's room to.
You're never going to hit the max. Like, for example, the corporate fund is a max that so far, we're probably a quarter of whatever the state statutory max is on the corporate fund. Your main source of limits to your spending is your PTEL and PTAP, which is your property tax limitation ordinance. That's the thing that prevents you. You know, we could take the property taxes and shuffle them any which way we want, but in the end, we only have so much to spend. So if we wanted to, we could disperse the revenue the revenue and the expenditure could match, and we could disperse it down through the various funds. But it gets back to the same thing. Would that help on a cost basis? Yes, but for a transparency basis, I think you're better off with something that when you see a position here, you might see it in 7 different time frames. Are you sure whether that's 7 different level of information? Yeah, it's much detail. It's just one item. Secretary, you don't know whether you have 7 secretaries or 1. Person salary out.
Do you think that this problem?
What about this? I'm asking questions to understand how this budget is prepared. Okay, compared to how I see it in the text. There's reasons for doing it both ways. Okay, it's pros and cons on both sides.
We more than happy to go back to the old way.
Marty, I'm not educated yet, I'm just trying to get an understanding of how it's done.
I'm just also reiterating that we can do it whichever way is the comfort of the board, because it's more of a presentation issue than a statutory or a regulatory. So we'd like to keep it as transparent as possible. But
No, that's why I asked if you thought it was a real problem. I'm okay sticking with this way unless we have a reason to change that.
That covers most of the wages, and then when we're going into mostly some materials and supplies. Those are mostly items that we order to conduct our day-to-day business. Bank fees that we pay to different banks, supplies, printing, postage. Most of these items are probably about one very small percentage of our budget. Next comes in health insurance, and all the full-time employees that are covered under the Minerva Health Insurance Plan. It was just renegotiated this year. The plan we had before no longer exists, so we had to get a new one. So the plan is selected. It's dispersed between mainly two funds. All the full-time employees are covered under two funds, corporate and rec. So they're approximately half and half, so we split that. Any questions? Next, we'll roll into utilities. We disperse our utilities base. Most of this one is the corporate, is this building here and the field houses. We just try to, we talked to our utilities provider, Constellation Energy, feel that the energy costs are going to stay, as conservative, they should stay the same as they were this year, so we don't anticipate much of a raise in our cost of utilities. We're hoping to see if we can lock in any rates for lower lower utilities. But the lock-ins don't usually happen until closer to April or May. So we'll see what they will offer us and what we can lock in. If we can lock in some rates that are then we'll have a better understanding of what we can expect to pay for utilities for the next couple of years, depending on how long we lock it in and what kind of rates it gives us.
So this water bill is strictly for the buildings, not the pool?
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Well, you're putting a $30 increase over last year?
Yes.
And there's a 10% increase every year that's charged by the city of Chicago.
Yes.
So we're underfunding it.
Well, that's true, and, I will probably go into it and as we...
Listen, put water saver shower heads down.
Well,
It's split in the rec fund too, a little bit. So the rec fund will have a good chunk of the water for this building.
Yeah, utilities, on the facilities.
That just poses a question back in my mind, but then you're splitting things there, but you didn't split things in the salary.
Well, the difference is utilities, we could, you're absolutely correct, we could put all the utilities in the corporate fund if that's the decision. Because I do agree that it would be easier to know how much we spend for electricity if it was all in one place. The difference is that some things wouldn't make sense to split them out, and I'll say, like, for example, utilities for the pool. If we want to run it as an enterprise type system, then we want to know what it costs revenue versus expenditure. Other than that, for facility, and then in the sense that we do that same thing for the facilities, because we want to know, for example, if the fitness center, the revenues for the fitness center are covering the costs of running the fitness center, and utilities are part of the cost. However, the other things, like the other things that aren't as clear, or we don't have an enterprise or for an enterprise type fund of running it, we could combine it. That's if anybody feels that would be more transparent, I'm more than happy to do it.
If I'm under a misunderstanding as to what I'm going to say something, but if what I'm about to say reflects a misunderstanding as to what you've been saying, I insist jump in and correct me. But what I get is it's a different situation because with payroll, I think it's more difficult to allocate who's spending what man or woman power in what capacity. When we're talking about water, electricity, and different facilities, we can read that. We can read the allocations in different categories if we want it. I think we could do it either way, but.
So then if you do that, what you're saying, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, but then you should have a separate water meter on the showers for the fitness club.
Well, that's
Get an
possible.
exact number of what
And
per
that
gallons
does,
your cost of your coffee.
I mean, we could do that, and that's
I'm
what
not
I'm saying.
I'm not advocating that.
Right, but that's why I think it's a different situation than the personnel situation, because you can measure the disbursement of energy and water in ways that you can't
How detailed would I be?
And this building is, like, this building is a difference, because we have one meter, let's say, well, we have three operations going in there. We have an administrative operation, we have a rec operation, and we have a fitness center operation. We have to do some sort of allocation with that. We could choose not to and put it all in the corporate fund.
We don't
I'm not-
sprinkle this building
I'm not-
outside, do we, in the summer?
What's that?
Sprinkle, irrigate.
No. But it's all based on the fact that
Right.
we try to allocate it, but I'm not.
My only point in starting all this was this, I know there's a 10% increase in water and Morton Grove every year.
Right.
And the village puts another 2 or 3% on it, so you can figure on average it's about 13 to 12.5%
Right.
every year.
All right.
Okay, we'll
We'll,
making sure that happens.
Well, I'm just,
No, but yeah, it's a good point. We'll just make sure that that moves solid before going forward.
Next, we'll leave.
unless you know something about the discount on water, please share it with me.
We're gonna dig our own well. Everybody gets a shovel, and we're starting to dig. Next, then we're leading into the contractual services. That's mostly covering the contracts we have for various services, legal services, payroll services, any kind of software maintenance contracts we have for providing any kind of services that we know we're not, we choose to farm out to an outside source.
Now, the software maintenance agreement, well, is different than buying the software that we're in the process of.
Right, that's sort of the bottom.
But then after it's bought and paid for and installed, it shifts over to the
Right.
maintenance agreement.
Yes. There's a $15 maintenance cost. If we,
Well, 11,000 decrease is a nice decrease.
yes.
But it should be, that'll, I think the fees on that were, is it 12,000?
It's 1,200 a month, 12 months for general website service agreements, and I think it's put in the rec fund once we get there, so you will see an increase in the software maintenance agreements in the rec fund.
Good.
Can I ask you about, can you talk for a minute about payroll services?
Payroll services are run by ADP. One of the things we're looking into, one of the changes that we'll have in the future is that when BSI Financial, Vermont System comes in and we start paying that, they will take over the payroll part of this, and we'll be able to, that line item should figure itself out.
I don't know if I'm being like 90%. It just seemed like more than I thought it would be. But,
It is, the payroll services is approximately $140 every payroll in the wintertime, and it will climb up to about maybe 200 and something in the summertime with summer workers and lifeguards. And then W-2 processing is probably about $400 or $500 as an annual fee. But when we have, prior to ADP, when we had ADK performing the payroll, that's about what we were paying, maybe about $4,000 as a maintenance fee to ADK for their payroll service. So the cost difference from going from our homegrown system to ADP was about the same. The problem why it's going to be nice to come back in is because of the systems talking to each other, because now we have to do a lot of it manually. So when ADP cuts its payroll and gives us reports, we have to take them and put them back into our system, whereas one system would be able to update each other.
We don't get, is there a fee, banking fee for direct deposit?
No. All right. Services. Okay. Lease agreements are various lease agreements, such as the copy machine, printers. We have contracts that were signed back a while ago. This contract's coming up due at the end of 2016, so we'll have to make a decision whether we want to go into a new lease, or if they'll, if we take it over, then whatever we lose in maintenance, whatever we lose in lease agreements, we have to pick up in maintenance, because then we'll have to get a contract to pay for a printer, toner, and whatever other reason. Basically, office, going on to equipment, is there any questions, Rick? Office, we go to equipment, mostly just things that we need as we go along. Computer hardware would be if a PC or something goes out, and the software would be if we have to buy or we get to some software that's not part of Office 360. The last one in the corporate fund would be miscellaneous expenses. These are mostly just items that we don't have a place for them in our budget, so we don't have an actual subcategory, so we put them together under miscellaneous things.
Miscellaneous. Page 2.
Yep,
I
page two.
see it, that additional couple bucks for, yeah. The only thing, I see down in human resource expense, executive director training, we talked about that, you know, in the past, commissioner seminar expense, you know, and many times that money's never really fully utilized. I'd like to see an additional line item or additional funds for staff, additional staff training, seminars, outside of IAPD, IPRS. There's unlimited amount of programs for nonprofit organizations that are given to profit organizations, and they're at a fourth of the price because we're nonprofit. And I think that may be beneficial at Jeff's discretion to maybe encourage staff or ask staff if they want to participate on some of these programs. And they're not like you go to the conference, that's great, but it's an hour and 10 minutes, 45-minute session.
Right.
You're not really going to learn the nuts and bolts about, say, grant writing or nonprofit management or nonprofit customer service.
Well, we had some grant writing, people experienced in grant writing and educating, that was a huge plus.
Yeah, no, I think that is a great idea. It's very insightful in that, you know, Laura and I have briefly talked just about, the conference is a great opportunity, but we're really going to get into those really small sessions where you only get a little bit of an overview. But being able to send people to a little bit more time a session so they can immerse themselves in whatever topic that may be would not only benefit that individual as a professional, but that will translate into being able to provide better service to the community. So I think that's a wonderful idea, and I think we could just put some money, we can either, I'll talk to Marty, we'll either set up a separate fund for it so you can see that that's where it is and how we use it, or we can just fold it into the educational expense for staff.
When we have a fairly young staff again and develop that staff to their full potential,
Right.
of what could be. Is there any concerns with the board on that?
Right. I think that's wonderful to be able to do that, so they can say, they cut their teeth at the Morton Grove Park District, and if they choose to leave us, then we want to make sure that they're better prepared to go to another place, and we should have pride in it. I think it's great.
Are you also talking about having a separate area in the budget for this?
Well, I guess he's got miscellaneous here for training and additional expenses and travel allowance and do, basically there in training.
We have educational expense for staff. I guess the question is, do we want to just use that line item or create a new one just for?
Well, the thing I don't want to see happen is to go into a general expense for educational expense, which I'm sure conference comes out of that.
Yeah.
See, and I think this is something that the director would decide if there's an employee that they think, you know what, there's this great customer service program and you can get the certificate in it, it's a 3-day program or whatever, like, many of these, Kellogg even has them, great programs that would enhance that person's ability to do the job and come back and train their people. I don't want that to be, then take away from the conference.
Right, I don't want,
Or to say, we've got 6,000 in the conference, so now we can all go because we didn't use the money for.
And I think it also holds me accountable, as well as staff to be held accountable, as well. We put in X amount of dollars and you only use a fraction, why aren't you using it? So this way, if we do have a separate fund and we can see how we're using it, I think would be a benefit there.
Yeah, and I think it shows everyone, the public, members of our own organization, that we take it seriously enough to put a separate category. It's not just a miscellaneous random thing. It's something we consider, important enough to merit its own category.
I look at it as not so much an investment in the employee, but an investment in the district.
Yeah.
Training is paramount. What's happening in the industry out there now is specialized training for employees and not so much, here, go get your master's degree, Go get training in the area that you're functioning in to do your job better and bring back to us.
Well, like everything else, I don't want to overpay for a bad deal, but make some commitment, to take responsible classes at the right price and all that stuff.
All right. So that would be in addition to.
Yes.
Okay.
But what's the difference between educational expenses for staff and what you're trying to accomplish? It's the same thing, isn't it?
Well, I guess it's the wording of educational expense for staff. Maybe that could be conference expense for staff. If you shifted that over to conference expense for staff, that would clarify there's X amount of dollars for staff to go to conference.
Okay.
And then the other would be,
So you really don't need another line item because you got that there. Just transport the monies from one budget.
I think it's nice to have it in two different line items. First of all, conference, a few years ago, some groups out in the community felt that that was an extravagant that Park District shouldn't be using public funds for. So if we see that, and we can show that we're limiting what we spend on conference, and then pull out the educational component so that we can that we're showing that we have this money, but holding staff and myself accountable for that money and the appropriate use of those funds as well, I think is important.
Okay.
Anything else that concludes the corporate part of the corporate fund? And we'll move into the park maintenance section next, page 2, middle. It's
Marty, I got a question.
I'm sorry.
Why is there a big difference in overtime this year versus last year?
The overtime for this year is what we're projecting versus last year, what we actually spent. So we're
I guess it's realistic.
So one of the big things that I've asked Greg to do is to cut back on that expense and really look at how we are scheduling our employees for that week. So if we know that we need someone to come into the pools during the weekend, maybe we flex their work schedule to be Tuesday to Saturday. If someone comes in from Sunday to Thursday, or another thing is they were working 40 hours a week and coming in on Saturday and Sunday for that overtime, just to make sure the pools are operational. One of the things that I've asked is, well, maybe the last thing that they do on Friday is to check the maintenance, do all the things that they need in preparation for Saturday, and then be on call for if there was a situation that may arise that the pool staff is unable to handle. And then just be sort of smarter about this. I mean, if you kind of look at the $40,000 that we do spend, that's a full-time custodian, or that's a couple of seasonal employees. So I mean, it's nice to be able to have overtime when we need it, but just to have it, because it's available, it just doesn't seem like it's an appropriate use of funds. So,
That works for me.
yeah, that's just the direction that we give.
I just couldn't believe that big of a difference.
One other thing too, Dominic, that we've added more seasonal people to handle weekends and overtime operations. So as you can see, the summer staff part went up by $6,000 to cover a portion of that.
Okay.
Building supplies, mostly just supplies for the field houses, the park, the garages, the running the equipment, gasoline for the gasoline oil, maintenance for the playground, signs, safety supplies, anything that is used but consumed by the park and the maintenance of the park. Is there any questions? For the most part, the side of there is the gas of all the park vehicles. It's about $17,000.
That's all.
Yes.
Well, yes.
It's gonna go up.
That and some of our equipment that consumes a little more gas. Actually went up a little bit because we don't, as you'll see when we get to the police fund, then we're, since the squad's not being used anymore, it's all coming out of the park maintenance. That saves us quite a bit by not running the squad. Next, maintenance agreements. Those are pest control, I think, I believe, and pest control and garbage removal. And fire safety. Yes, the fire safety testing, the low voltage and some of those others. are in
Yes,
there. Yeah.
monitoring
Yeah,
service.
monitoring. For the most part, just items that we have, reoccurring items that we have a contract with, so we don't, we have, either by the village or by some other. Mainly, most of the other things are smaller items, like maintenance, equipment, mostly equipment that qualifies for capital, comes out of capital, these mostly these items that fall below our threshold. Building maintenance, maintaining the parks, fencing, grassy, shrubs, dirt, anything.
Is that grassy, weed-free? Greg, are those dandelions in there?
Hey, the lights are good.
Yeah. On the tree, shrubs, and flowers, $3,000 versus the $900 increase last year. Do we have trees on the capital project then?
Yes. Trees are basically really not on here anymore. It's basically your flowers and your foundation plantings, places like bush and the little type of area here. I know we're gonna look at the garden club plants. On your annuals,
So we'll see tree plantings in the capital.
yes.
I asked about the difference in park improvements. See 8,500 from estimated 150, 2,500.
Well, we're trying to move items that, we're trying to, if it's a capital item, we're going to spend it on the capital, so if it's a park improvement, that it should be a capital item.
It's kind of,
And the remaining is educational seminar. Is there any other questions for section? This is the end of the park maintenance. Okay, on to the rec fund. The first part of the rec fund is the real estate taxes. We covered that. They're pretty much based on the levy that we put forward to the county to cover the administrative costs of the rec department. Is there any questions on the rec department revenue?
Okay, for expenses, again, we go down into salary and wages. One of the things that we did this year was we put in a marketing manager line item specifically, so that you can see that we can support a marketing manager. So that's a little bit different than the previous year. If you go down to materials and supplies, you'll see a big difference between the banking fees, the Acronet fees, going down $15,000. So as soon as there will be a little bit of a lapse between the time that we still have Acronet to the time that we have BSI, so we'll incur those expenses. But as we go along with BSI, that number will shrink down even further. Health insurance, so a portion of health insurance, not only in corporate, but here is rec fund, because employees are split between the two, so you'll see that portion there as well. Utilities, contractual services, equipment and miscellaneous, all pretty much the same as the previous fund. Anything in there that pops out or would like any kind of explanation on?
Electricity, I would assume it's all lighting, exterior lighting.
This is the rec, so yes, the park, field house.
Jeff, excuse me for a second. Going back to the marketing person.
Yes.
Didn't we have that budgeted for last year someplace?
But we didn't spend, that, you'll see a zero next to it.
Yeah.
Because we didn't spend any money on it, we were hired first.
Okay.
So that's our estimated cost for 15, 16, will be zero because of the issue we never filled.
All right. But I thought we had a budget, so okay, I'm glad. Please,
And those-
that's a critical position, that's, please consider that and try and run that as quick
No,
as possible.
yeah, one of the first things that I kind of got from the board was that we just need to show that we can support it through the budget process. I think that we can be clear to show that we can support it, so.
That's a great position, right? It'll take us to another level.
Okay. Any questions about page 4?
Yeah, sorry. At bottom miscellaneous, did we cover, I mean, I'm seeing down from 9,000 to 4,000 on educational expense staff. Is that because we moved it already to another place, or I'm just wondering why that's on that. 581,
Yeah.
200.
We have two less staff. You've got like you have a marketing manager and we're down a marketing supervisor. That's part of the downgrade there.
Using subscriptions went down, just looking for the point of why you were trying to.
Yeah, the dues is also through IRA, NRPA.
We think it's 6,000, but I membership, annual membership. So that's the majority of that.
Usually the stuff goes up.
Well, it's, the one cost, the 6,000, was the majority of it. That stayed the same, but the other costs, for example, like individual membership, you don't have people, and you don't have to join the IEP. There's a cost for all the people that go to IEP. They have to register.
So your IABD membership fee is based on the rec fund?
Yes, the back one.
IDRA.
Yes,
IABD is Illinois Association of Partners.
Right.
That's more administrative.
well, I think I split it, but I don't mind putting it back to work with one.
There's a using subscription.
Yeah, so I just have to leave that.
That revenue is, that was
Yes.
All right. Page 5, recreation program, revenue and expenses, that's just collapses everything in, so. Then we get into carpool revenue and expenditures. Not really sure which way approach. So, it is hard. We have a lot of expenses in water that we'll see when we get into materials and everything. So, but that costs are pretty much the biggest thing here. The revenue membership afterwards of our tutorial. We do some rentals, more than doing and some of the lessons that we offer, times that we use of the pool. Other than that, it's pretty much right on task. So you have your revenues, your expenses, salary, wages, material supplies, utilities, pretty much the same thing. Any questions about our pool revenues or expenditures?
I'll save my time for the photo.
All right. So and then you'll see that then we go right into Oriole. It's pretty much the same. They parallel, or they not. They parallel. They mirror each other because they basically have the same sort of things on there, with the exception that they do a little bit more of the lessons over at Oriole because it's. The newer ones are better meant to all together, so we're on page 8, concession revenue. So we take a portion of our concessionaires. They provide us financial. We get what concessions? 25%.
On the concessions, we get 20%.
20%.
Gross. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And the same with vending.
Right. So that is that's the pools.
And just last year was a very bad year for pools, so the concession money was down along with everything else. So we're hoping that based on what we've said, that the pools season should be a good pool season. Weather report.
First of all, I see great disparity in guards expense for Oriole over our park.
Right, because we are not required. The way the pool is constructed, we have to have a minimum of 13 guards on staff at the time the pool is open. So just because of blind spots, the footprint, that sort of thing, amenities.
Sorry, but I didn't interrupt you. The expenses also went up because keep in mind, we were closed almost 25% of the year because of the weather last year, and we have increased the hours at Oriole to offer 5 a.m. splits, to make sure we have a cashier always at the front door, greeting guests. We're open later. These hours also include all of our programs for swim lessons, aquatic classes, and et cetera. So that's why that went up so much, and we anticipated a minimum wage increase.
Because I can see that the assistant manager wages, assistant manager at Har was $8,000, and at Oriole was $54,000.
Correct, and keep it also in mind that Har, we're reducing hours a little bit.
Thanks for the explanation. What are we actually doing, briefly as you can, to get people out and utilize these pools? Because the trend that I seen from last year, I know weather was a big factor, huge factor. But, and cost of operating pools is always very high.
So I'll take Oriole for an example, things that we're doing. We've restructured the hours so we're not closing down the pool anymore at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever it was in the reopening. That really hurt our participation, trying to get guests back in the pool. So once we're open, we are open. We're trying to come up with a marketing campaign and advertising hours on the website. I was just actually out at the facility yesterday getting window cleans measured, so the hours and the events are posted out there, and our new aquatic supervisors really push programming in the morning, evenings. We have a lot of new special events. We've swim lesson format coming, so we even have some new fitness classes coming out there. So we're trying to really push the programming, and then in those situations when the weather is poor, we have a set procedure now, how we're gonna close down, the weather we're gonna close down, to minimize our expenses.
I see that with opening, with allowing, correct me if I'm wrong, if you are a member of the fitness club downstairs, you automatically can go there for laps in the morning?
No. So, yes and no. So if you're a member of the fitness center, if you're an individual member, yes, you get a free aquatic membership. If you're an active adult member, family, or individual member, yes, you get a free aquatic membership. But for our fitness center members that might have 3, 4, 5 members in their household, they have to pay a $50 upgrade fee to be eligible. And that's just to help cover some of their overhead costs.
And I can, next question, are you clarifying that with the fitness people? You know, do you have some signage down there so at this, you know, so everybody sees and knows what's going on with it?
We haven't released any of the full information yet. That starts March 1st, but on March 1st, we will be putting that out in our newsletter and around.
Because I've heard from some people that are kind of excited that they can go do laps in the morning.
Yeah, March 1st is when everything goes on sale. That'll be pushed out.
Which will enhance both programs. But, and I clearly appreciate the creativity here to try and get those numbers back up.
And we're running a summer special, $99. You can get a fitness membership and a pool membership together.
As an individual.
Correct, and that's trying to target some of those college kids or some of our Florida residents that come back.
So I know that just looking at the two schools separately, Mike and Jeanette has been really kind of looking at this, how we can minimize those expenses and the opening the pool. So, you know, going after this season, maybe we increase that time period. We also stagger the closing of it, and we look at it a little bit more after this season. Maybe I think right now we have 2 weeks between the closings. Maybe we look at the possibility of extending that to 3 weeks. Kind of all depends. And then ultimately, I mean, we really need to look at maybe there's a possibility of focusing on one pool, one summer, and that's more drastic measure, but there is always a possibility of looking over one pool. But, you know, that would be something that obviously you would take to your brain to and let me know if it's.
We got the leaks, right, Greg?
We got some of it, we got some of those leaks fixed. We haven't done anything about, patching or anything, because we want to do more testing, come May, so that we can make sure that we.
Did the pipes they take off, did you actually see the leaks in them?
Well, what they had, the rubber couplers on there, so they, the sound checked
And another way we're going to try to minimize expenses is our recreation supervisor will be spending the majority of their time out at those sites. This some of those requirements hired for express gas service, etc.
Okay, sounds to me like they got a handle on it.
Okay, so let me ask you about the ad that was in the paper. West Street, for a furniture store out front. I thought last summer we got all those in the paper and some
So
Where are they?
we are, it'll be, you'll see that in capital, we fund that money, and that will be addressed at the next month board meeting. But to answer your question, tables are only
tables and garbage. We can get that for tables and garbage. And we got a few of the small white tables. We got those big ones we painted like red, and we got those. But then last year, we actually got some donated by the vendor, some nice concrete ones, so we changed those out. So those, we still have those, one rotating dolls and some of those. So,
Yeah, with the deck furniture, unfortunately.
It was not there.
Right, so it's not chairs and chaise lounges that, what we do. My understanding is a lot of them are, a lot of straps that pop, discolored, they've got rust and other things.
They're up for replacement. They were up for replacement 2 years ago, actually. But more importantly, we don't have enough chairs on site to handle all the capacity that we will replace them around.
Well, I can't see where there wasn't enough choice, car park, there was nobody.
Yeah, last summer was a really bad year for all of us. It was cold on the, it's really hard to compare it, unfortunately. We have 2 bids coming, and both bids are the companies that supply bids for Oriole.
Where are we right now?
District administration.
Hey, Jake.
AJ, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. I just wanna make
Right.
sure. Can I ask a couple questions? One's about Oriole, one's about car. I can do car first. Yeah, we're jumping around from important topics, so every once in a while I've stopped for clarification. And in this case, I want to ask about something you talked about with car. You said Greg, did you say there's another problem with the car now?
No, we're gonna continue testing. When you put water in, we're gonna do static testing. They put dye in, follows kind of where the dye is going. We'll know if we got some things in the liner and the main grate. So we plan on filling it in tiers
Okay.
and seeing if we can isolate if there's any more problems.
So we don't know.
No, you
Can
can't.
we fix that pipe right?
Yeah, the camera with old piping, it's gonna give you an idea, but, unless it jumps out to you like these ones that they repaired,
Yeah.
you can't pinpoint any.
So we repaired that pipe, and now it might be still leaking, it might not, we don't
Well,
know.
it's always leaking.
Yeah,
It's
so
always-
when we presented that repair, we said we couldn't do any more testing until we fixed that pattern. So going.
Because we knew there was a leak there.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, and it wouldn't, we couldn't go beyond those leaks.
I remember we talking, there might be other leaks.
Right,
But-
right.
Okay, so we think there's other leaks, but we don't know for sure, or just, what's the status?
I would be willing to bet there's probably, I always sound pessimistic, but the bet man, I would just say
Just like,
Okay.
just
Probably
on
minor
the
leaks.
age of the facility of,
I just want to make sure I got the information
Right.
that we're.
And winters like we had this winter, where it's warm thaw, it's not very easy for pipes.
Okay, question, Oriole, page 8, 440506, Reynolds, Field Houses, Oriole, last year budgeted 3360, this year 0. And I asked about, did we move money somewhere?
They moved the budget for the pools are now being rented under the pool and not under the separate. This is starting 2,500, so this is where, what all the other rentals of Field House, what we used to
Why don't
rent.
we do that with Mark?
yeah, we'll do that.
There is no field house there.
I know, but there's, under Fifth House rental, there is, it says rental field house.
Oh,
That-
yeah, that's
$700.
my mistake. I think that should have been
Harbor.
sheltered. That should have been sheltered.
The reason we moved Oriole under there is we
Oh, that's
wanted
shelter.
one
Yeah.
person to oversee that home care
So
facility.
where is the Oriole, if somebody rents a field house in Oriole, where does that show up on this budget?
That would be on page 6. Halfway down, halfway down on the rental. There was a shift.
I'm sorry, we're taking that hard, that's good.
Yeah, okay. What's this?
Now, the Oriole rental has pool in the field house combined,
That's the pool and the pound room combined.
or separated.
Or, yeah, 99% of that is the home room, to be totally honest. It's rare when we rent out the home care pool.
Did you reduce the rental fee for the pool?
No,
Over last year?
if you rent the home care pool, yes, that went down. The home room, no, we didn't change those.
Okay. Pool rental did get down, because I had 3 people saying
It is.
we were too high.
Yeah, one of the things that Mike had the preparation staff do is make sure where we are in the marketplace. So, we don't want to price ourselves out.
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but I know Jeanette did reduce it. It wasn't dramatic reduction, but it was enough where we could cover our overhead costs. And once again, part of the problem is there's some guards for that pool. That's why our revenue is so high.
Okay. Purdue Community Center and Fitness Center, there's your revenues, wages, materials, utilities, contractual equipment. Any questions regarding Purdue Community Center, Fitness Center? Any consensus? Yes, Valentine, quarter a half.
Maybe we could get people to advertise on it, wear their name on there.
No, I mean, we could certainly, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a very creative idea, and I think once we have a marketing person that can come in and push that a little bit, if you could figure out how much is Palomar, how much is doing work, and we can shop there.
Is that, I've had several members ask me, how much do we make in that when we talk?
Yeah. Yeah.
People like you know all that. They would rather
Well,
maybe put it in the price of the membership.
It sounds silly, but that 25 cents really doesn't cover the cost of the health. We lose a lot of health when we take the home, and we probably spend triple that time in health.
They want the cars,
How much would it cost to tip for the house?
well,
We
yeah.
bought nicer towels.
Right,
We could certainly,
right, why would we say?
I mean, there's other things that we can do that not be able to eliminate that, so we have to put the pass for the lock back. Maybe it's possible to get something out back, you get your back back or something.
I can't believe it's that big problem.
It can be, it really can.
Maybe there's one or two here and there, but I mean, people.
That's why they don't go to the big, full, back side towel, because it's only full. So you can sit over. So.
What? All police.
Right, okay, so, anything else about revenues or expenses for Prairie View Fitness Center?
Vending income. Is there a coffee machine down there anywhere yet?
No.
That's a big concern to have down there, especially at the fitness center. We don't want to bring coffee into the fitness center, but in the lobby, that's another story.
How about that new rule?
Well, I'm just looking at, everybody's talking about destinations now. You know, everything's a destination, the library's becoming a destination, everything's becoming a destination, and people like to sit and talk after, you know. Now, I've been here at 6 o'clock in the morning to see what goes on, because I'm, you know, and there's a great bunch of people down there early in the morning. And there's people that come and meet other people, you know. With coffee and a juice thing where they could sit and actually talk.
We did look into that, correct me if I'm wrong, but they had a service, was it like $3,000 or something?
It was expensive,
It
yeah.
was like $3,000 or $4,000 to have a service.
And that is partially one of the reasons why we took out the couches and put in the tables and chairs. We create more of an experience, not an experience, but an area for them to be able to sit and talk and stuff. But I mean, certainly, we can probably check with our vendor to see if he has machines.
Well, I just, you know, even people walking out the door where you take the coffee to go, I mean, with something of that nature, I mean, like I could go across the street here to Starbucks and it's $6, $7 for a cup of coffee. So, even if you charge $2 for a cup,
Yeah, I can only.
I know, it's more hassle,
I-
they have more
Well,
hassle.
it's just-
You're only gonna pay $1.
It's just gonna be a bigger expense, because, you know, you put out an 8-ounce cup and someone's gonna bring a 32-ounce mug.
Right,
And
no,
all
that
that,
I understand all
I
that.
think the important thing to keep in mind is, it's a phenomenal idea, and it's something I think we should look into, but for the time being, looking at cutting our expenses and whatnot is the main focus, and then we address it a little further from that point on.
So with that, let's keep moving.
Okay, yeah, anything else? Police fund? Okay, so, police fund. We have, Laura, I've asked Laura to, ask Laura to kind of take control of the police and their supervision. So she has done a tremendous job just cutting back on the expense with them. So rather than having them set time from 3 to 10, we're now utilizing them when you need them. So during the winter months, we've been going from 7 to 10. They've been doing their building checks. They come in here to help after the facility closes, and that's it. If we need them for special events, we will do that and make sure that we use them appropriately. Right now, prior to going into the summer, we still need to talk about their hours, when we want to start them on the weekends and on the weekday nights, that sort of thing. But we are really looking towards just using them in the best way possible. Part of that is, we've had a police cruiser, but it's been, it's a $50,000 expense. Right now, it takes several $1,000s just to fix it, but we've decided that rather than use that cruiser, because Greg uses a truck between, prior to 3 o'clock, that they would just go over, use that truck to make their checks and everything like that. So it's just a lot easier. It's a lot less waste in that. So pretty excited to see what they do in the summer months. So.
Well, you cut back 12,500 part-time police, but you increased $6,300 almost in Norm, the chief. Are you utilizing the chief more?
He for sure has the most hours there are, but everyone's been cut to the same amount of time. And again, this is only for the winter months when there's no one basically in the parks. So they're doing more of the security and the rentals. And they are working on the weekends, by the way, now. And then come April, the hours will substantially increase due to the volume of people in the parks. So I don't know why that's separated out.
The norm?
Yeah.
It's just the way it is, because one's the chief and the other ones are all under the same category, they're police officers, so.
Yeah, one went up 60, almost 6,300, and the others went down 12.5 grand.
So is it because Norm's hours are increasing and we're cutting part-time guys? Or the opposite?
He will basically have most of the hours, is what it is.
So he's getting extra hours.
It's not extra, it's of the pot, he's gonna have 3/4 of the hours. And we went from 4
Yeah, so
to,
if we don't use him as much, the part-time will go up. If we, if it stays the same, so it'll fluctuate between the two.
and we lost the part-timer.
Right. Okay, any other questions about police fund?
I have a question. I would have asked it earlier. It's not a previous category. I was looking for it to come up. I wrote it down after our committee of the whole meeting, and we had an attachment on the committee of the whole. It was a draft of this. It was an earlier version. There's a few slight changes I noticed from the committee of the whole like 3 weeks ago, and the one that was put out with this meeting. One of the differences is in the committee of the whole, some changes to the tiger sharks were more noticeable. And I wrote that down, and I was meaning to ask it when it came up, and it kind of never came up. I'm trying to find it on this version, the Tiger Shark.
So
Page 8.
Okay. Can you just talk about, I think there's a cut?
Yeah, so the Tiger Shark program has actually been removed. We didn't get it to run last year. We decided not to put it in this year since we only had 5 kids participating. We actually had to staff it with our lifeguards to participate in the conference.
So you're cutting it?
Yeah, we're just removing it and we're replacing it with additional programming.
Anything in mind to replace it?
We're really focusing on swim lessons, to be totally honest. That's going to be our new platform we're trying to build over in the pool there.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm reading things correctly.
Yep.
Okay. Paving and lighting fund? 12-0. Any questions?
Why is it all zero?
Marty?
Well, we run out of money everywhere else, something has to become zero. No, we need money.
All right.
So we're not gonna have any paving or any lighting?
Well, most of the paving always becomes a capital item anyway. And the lighting is very minor because the only thing that's out there is the outdoor lighting, and it runs about, what is it, about 100 something a month. ComEd gives us a very good deal on outdoor lighting. They charge us, dusk to dawn lighting is incredibly cheap. So it's, it's just never been, it usually comes in with all the other electric bills, so it usually gets put in with a rack instead of the paving and lighting because we have trouble. So that's why we've been, it really hasn't been any expenses while through there, probably the last 4 or 5 years.
And these lights out here will be retrofitted, probably within the last 10 years, energy efficient, and they were all inspected for safety. So we're good there too, so we're really good to have it.
About the seal coat.
That comes out of capital. The steel, you'll see.
Museum? Anything about museum?
That's the personal property replacement tax. That's you'll see there's a personal property replacement tax in the police fund, the museum fund, and the corporate fund. Because of the limited amount of the levy, and the last few years, the police and museum fund levy got wiped out. So we've been putting PPRP in there to replace it to the revenues necessary to operate the police fund and the museum fund.
I've been going to the museum meetings now with Jeff and Mike. Just to touch on a few topics while we're here. Jeff has done some research and he feels that we should maybe get into agreement with them closer to procurement, which would be a little bit more protective of the people's interests, which I concur. Eileen, that, but brochure printing and postage here, $4,400. How much postage are we responsible for? And how much postage is the historical society?
It's professional services is actually $3,500. The printing's $820. So the printing would be like little trifolds for that new biking exhibit that came out, or the museum trifolds. As far as the professional services go, that is maintaining their archiving
Okay, so
software.
we don't own the archives.
And they're cleaning too, and the cleaning.
They're backflow preventers, they're
Okay, well, I'm just, again,
monitoring.
I remember when this all started, way back when. It started with $1 on the table from McFosco's. And it was comical in retrospect, but the Park District owns the building, they own the property, they maintain the building. Are we comfortable that there is a division of responsibility and we're taking care of our responsibility and not holding up some of the others?
Well, as you know, the last meeting that we had, we told that we were going to give warning that there's, money's gonna be tight, and you're gonna have to probably do a little bit more. To go through that agreement, that agreement, that we can do a lot more as to this is what you're gonna be responsible for, this is what we're gonna be responsible for, and you can just, address some of these concerns that we have.
I think we need to spread the support that is an important part of the community. It just started out with not here we are, 25 years later, $52,000.
Yeah. Right.
It started out that it was only that someone can be a caretaker of the building and they were going to get $5,000, only do $1,000 a year, and now we get how much to sell? $41,000 to sell. Well,
But we do get a portion of the,
And that's the agreement with the book, like, they'll pay out $6 payroll to board the community. So they usually end up getting a check, probably about $400. And $400 a quarter. So we might get about $2,000 to get back to the work site for the system. No, yes,
there's no money over here.
well, we're still, I have, because originally we did it for generating like there. So I'm still trying to come up with a number, and we always talk about using the contract. So I don't know whether we should have, maybe $6 for 10 hours. So, that's an open item.
We're tightening the boat across the board here for the rest of 2018, and I just want to make sure that
Right, I have considered,
absolutely.
but I don't want to.
And Dan, the curator role has changed a lot since you guys made that initial agreement. Curator used to be able to now it's the curator more of the cataloging and, various programs. Kind of the role has changed.
Right, but you've been around long enough to know that all of a sudden we moved it here, it's supposed to be fine, and the building wasn't there 5 years, and we had to spend how much money to recycle brand new cedar. I mean, that was probably $80,000 way back then. How many roofs did we put on? And how much was the door we put on? I understand all that, but I believe in public-private partnerships is a great thing. But it's not functioning this organization to subsidize another organization. Anyone, especially in the economic climate. We've got visions with the pool, the staff is addressing the run those revenues up, but I greatly appreciate it. And really applaud you guys for what you're trying to do. So we're looking at everything. Any other questions about?
I just want to make sure, there's one last two, so the Evelyn Municipal Retirement Fund, is the next one.
This is mostly, we pay all the employees at 4.5%, all full-time employees and 3 part-time employees have 4.5% of their income taken out for IMRF. This is subsidized a portion of that rebate.
There's some questions. How funded is our portion? So what's our overall outstanding debt?
Our overall standing debt, and if you want, I can go look it up in the chat, but I will say, I believe that I'll put it.
1.8 million?
Don't quote me on this stuff.
Well, I just appreciate those numbers, and I think it's important that they're out there, that, that's known, because that's relatively acceptable. I mean, the business district would usually take care of that. I know, I was looking at the tax bills in Evanston owes almost $500 million. Our village owes. These are big numbers.
Usually, Ironmark does this very good job of making sure that everything stays the point.
Right.
So you don't have, that's my funding. Some, once you start waiting for police and fire department, funding. So, but
So
I
you
read.
safely say we're in the 7th or 8th.
Oh, yeah. And we also paid $72,000 last year to IMRF to offset a amount we owe that we're paying 70% interest on. We paid that out. That came out of our IMRF budget too for 2016 to pay down outstanding liabilities.
Great. Any other questions about that? We just, FICA bond interest on liability fund, appropriation, audit,
Marty gave a presentation there back in January. Advocating keeping the
There is an account there somewhere that money came in, we did a trust, to the checking account, and when the checking account, but it won't be in the budget because it's not part of it. It's not a revenue or expenditure. It's a proceed. Now, if you want, but it's not a future expenditure for 2016, 17.
long-term liability.
Well, that's true, but that wouldn't end up in the budget. The long-term liability would end up in the CAF or but it wouldn't end up in the budget. The budget is cash based, like a checkbook. Once you go after a checkbook, you'll make the amount you write the check.
There is money, you are planning on diverting money.
In about, if you want, as soon as the paper's signed, which we'll hopefully
It's
get some
signed.
signatures.
It's signed.
Okay, good, then you'll probably,
It's
in
done.
2 or 3 weeks, I'll get you the bank statement.
Any other questions? So that would, I'm sorry.
I'm just going around, any other questions from anybody?
That sort of takes us up to right at the top of page 14, so just 14 and 15 is just some.
Well, I certainly appreciate this, guys, because I have a much better understanding now than I did before. And now I know what questions to ask Marty when.
It's been helpful for me too. And I like the differences overall from this year as opposed to last year as far as structure goes. Don't you agree? And yeah, from last year, I like that.
Yeah, we collapsed a lot of different line items, so. Okay, so we got the capital plan, so.
So does everybody want to take a 5-minute break? Okay.
All right. Okay, so the next thing we have is the capital plan. So what in preparation of the plan, we really focus on three things when it comes to determining capital. One, does it support a revenue stream? So items for the fitness center, equipment, that kind of thing. Does it improve efficiencies? I mean, are we going to realize cost savings by purchasing a piece of equipment that would be sort of like the VSI registration system? And the other thing is, and I'm drawing a blank.
Necessary.
Yeah, so if the item that that we were replacing it with is requiring a lot of maintenance, has it exceeded its life expectancy, and is it requiring us to fix and repair quite a bit, then we'll replace it. But everything else, if we can extend the useful life out of the items, let's say we have a playground equipment, it's on every 15 years, can we push it out 20 years, that sort of thing. So that's the way that we're looking at it. So we've taken, the first sheet is just a collapsing of all the different areas that we break down capital. So there is a parks and pool section, recreation, playground, fitness, athletics, aquatics, and administration. And you can kind of see in there, and Marty has also put in there, where we have our bond sales and what amounts that we're going to have available for capital items. Marty, if you want to expand upon that.
Well, we did a couple of things here. First off, we started out with what we think we have, what we reasonably can expect to have to spend on capital starting in 2016. So that is what we're basing our starting point on. So then what we did is that we put in our principal and interest payments that we expect to pay on Oriole Pool. We, as you'll see, the amount jumps up when we get to under parks and pools. When it goes from 17 to 18, it goes up from 361 to 763 due to the payment of about approximately $400,000 in principal, when the principal starts coming due on December 1 of 2018. So we try to put everything in. We try to end up with a positive balance on the end of our capital spending, so that we don't draw it down into a negative. And we're just trying to. Then we went through all our items to make sure that there were items that we that met our three goals of being increasing efficiency, support a revenue stream, and where the maintenance cost was exceeding the amount of the replacement of the asset. So we went through it all, then we looked through, then we decided what items had to be, we would put in there, what we could delay, and then we came up with, this is where we stand right now.
So now this is 5 years, but we're really, we've got what we have for this year. 2016, 17 is in there, so anything out beyond that, every year we'll look at those items, make sure that they're in the right place. We have to shift one out some more years, bring one back in. So very dynamic. Every year we look at the items, things come off, things will go on, things get pushed out, brought in, that sort of thing. So if you want, we can start with the first one, which is the parks and pools. And you can see for next year we have the dolphin scrubbers. These are the little mechanical units that sit in the water, clean the bottom of the pool during the night, that sort of thing. There's the deck chairs and lounges for HAR. We do have a small truck such as an S10 for $20,000. The dump.
That is the S10. What would you be using that for?
Yeah. So right now we have a big. It's an F-150 that the police and Greg use, and we're taking that one, putting that into the rotation for regular maintenance and giving them a smaller truck, a little bit more fuel efficiency to use to drive around.
And that would take the place of, we have one up for replacement, so instead of replacing we would just put a plow unit on the F-150.
Okay,
Well,
So you're taking out your squad car and your, instead of replacing the 10-year-old truck with a new one, you're replacing it and rotating it.
why'd you settle on an S10?
It's similar to an S10. I don't even think S10s are available anymore. We looked at it.
We're just kind of giving it a such as.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
kind of what we had before, we had the small Blazer that you would share. with-
Yeah, even when I started, the superintendent drove a little, I
Right.
believe S10 or Ford Ranger, or
Right.
similar.
Okay.
Better on gas too.
So then the hitch spreader, power washer, skid steer, tractor, there's a garage to service center, 5,000. And then there's, as you see right down there, there's the Oriole bond interest.
8-foot dump, why are we replacing the 8-foot, the dump truck?
Okay, that dump is, was used for pulling the mowing crew in the summer. That's used for salting and plowing in the winter. Obviously, it's got a lot of corrosion and whatnot, but it's also, because of the way it was used, and it's 10 years old, that we should replace it instead of, I mean, I know there's options of sandblasting the body and repairing it and replacing the seat that's totally worn. But my thought is you may be throwing bad money into it. Your transmission could go because of the wear and tear. We could probably get roughly about $5,000 for it, so that would go back into the capital also. So that would not.
That's the short one, right?
Yeah, that's the 8-foot.
Pushes and pulls, so.
Is that including the plow?
Yes, 4-wheel drive plow would be used for the same thing. Actually, we have an older 8-foot that would probably rotate into using for pulling the mowing and plowing and salting, and keep the newer one nicer. That way we could kind of rotate them out, make them last longer.
People with a plastic blade,
Never tried a plastic blade.
it's a hell of a lot lighter.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not really moving mountains and mountains of snow.
Yeah.
But we still just, doesn't the village still have the agreement where they plow the entrance and, or no?
No.
They don't do any plowing for it?
No, I mean, like by parking stores, they would come there and turn around. Yeah. I mean, if we call them and need salt or plowing, they help us.
I
Yeah.
just,
They don't do anything.
because they used to plow this, come straight down and around, and they would plow our part and
Yeah, I mean,
We got
yeah, we still have that agreement out there.
I was just gonna say.
So, and then, rather than go each item for the next 5 years, the next 4 years, I just only want to highlight that in 2018, 19, you'll see the bond payment and, the principal and the interest starting to be paid in that year. Okay? So do we have any questions about the Parks and Pool FY 16, 17 capital list?
I don't see trees down here.
Trees will come, they're on another page. Actually, on the next page 5.
So you spent, just a note here, 30,000 last year, was that for removal in trees or just trees?
That was removal entries. A lot of removal.
Are we done removing now?
Well, we'll have a few, but we'll see after last night, but, yeah, well, I mean, there's always gonna be some that if you see they're either diseased or dangerous, and unfortunately with emerald ash, they keep popping up.
Oh, they're all gonna go.
Yeah. Trying to stagger it.
Fence is 10,000, is that keeping in the dog park?
No. That's ball field.
Safety ADA improvements, $30,000.
That's like the project we did out here. The next big park would be ours, so it's kind of biting up the two big ones, and then you should see that fund go down after that.
$130,000 we're going to do at our park.
Same thing we had to do out here, everything that's not sloped, 50%, 5%, we have to change
That
out.
include the path?
The path, any walk path, any concrete, any asphalt, other than, parking lot, obviously.
But those monies comes from this special act, not the capital money that we put in these funds.
What happened to Cinder?
Cinders?
Limestone.
Impervious pavement?
Limestone.
Okay. So we were on recreation playgrounds. Any questions related to that?
Oquito Park Fieldhouse, $4,000. Is that air conditioning we're talking about?
That's window replacement. The windows, would just be the big windows, they're actually leaking now, and we definitely have to get replaced.
On the gable?
Yeah.
Where you at?
Page 3?
Page 3, recreation and.
So is there money in here for,
Yes.
Yes,
there-
last page.
fitness center counter?
You'll see it on the administration, HVAC controls, or not, I'm sorry, that's not it.
Where'd Marty bury it?
It's,
Page 9 at the top, heating air conditioning controls,
Yeah.
80,000, heating air conditioner replacement, 32,000.
80,000 is the anticipated system, control system we
It's
have.
here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just the bottom, I'm sorry, AC for all field houses, 40,000. Bottom page.
For all the field houses. Is that including the lock and thermostat?
Okay. Recreation playground,
I don't remember at the exact price, but I have a question about something. Page 3?
yes.
Just repaving generally. Do we use coal tar, or do we not use coal tar?
That's a good question. Coal tar, is that the,
We do not use coal tar anymore, you can.
What's that? Where?
Everywhere.
You can't even get it in ours anymore.
But that means instead of every 5 years, every year you got it.
That's the problem. You'll see this lot on here.
any question on,
What page are you on?
well, I'm just now finishing page 3, which is recreation playground. Going to page 4, fitness. So, next year, we're proposing a fitness counter and mirrors in the hit zone,
You're on page what now? 4?
page 4. You'll see the capital plan, and you'll see that little fitness.
Fitness counter.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so what we are looking to do is, as you're going down the hallway, you're passing the men's and the women's locker room. Right before you get to the women's stretching room, you make a left turn and you make a quick right to go down the hallway to the men's stretching room and actually get onto the fitness floor. So if you went straight ahead, if you face about a 2-foot high wall, it goes right, it separates out the track. We are looking into the possibility of cutting out that cinder block area and then along where that hallway is to go down to the men's stretching room is to build the fitness counter. So what will this enable us to do? First of all, it's going to open up floor space on the fitness room so we can possibly put in an additional piece of equipment. It will provide the fitness attendant a place to sit so that they can pass out towels, pass out locks, check in people, and that will reduce
The towel theft.
yes.
This is where we're gonna save the $1,200 and spend $5,000 on a towel theft.
Right, but this will allow us to reduce the amount of personnel costs on the front desk. We've got a lot of what ifs to figure out, to make sure that we fully thought this through before we really kind of go full bore on this. But it does give us an opportunity to cut down on those costs. Of course, that person, the fitness attendant, will be cross-trained to take registration, rentals, that kind of stuff. So it would just give them the space where they can really be able to better serve the fitness members.
I think it makes it look like a fitness center too.
Right.
Rather than the way we do it now.
Yeah. The flow's a little different, because now you go to the front desk, you go right into locker rooms. Now you have to pass up the locker rooms, get your stuff, and then go back, but, not that bad of a deal. So, and as of right now, there's nothing in the wall that would necessitate, there's no wiring or plumbing or anything like in that, so cutting it out would be, we don't have to have that concern. How easy is it going to be to cut it out? Pardon? No, but Greg has looked at it and says it can be done. If we want to do it, we can do it over at the maintenance day where we shut down to really sanitize and clean the locker rooms really well. That would give us an opportunity to do that as well. So we have a lot to look at.
We've got drawings for that, right? Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. It really is to give a better opportunity for our members, mostly to help reduce the cost of things.
I think it's a great idea.
The mirrors in the fifth zone, Nautilus, Airmaster, some just machines. We gotta keep it fresh, kind of move things along. We've got the rope trainer in there now. We have the Jacob's ladder. I was a little skeptical on the Jacob's ladder because every time I went down there, they were using it, or it was after the time that I was coming down, so I figured it. I see people on there doing quite a bit. So it's a good addition. Sue and Mike, they go to the fitness club industry show down in Chicago. That's a great idea. So really that high intensity interval training, high intensity training is where it's at right now. So we just need to make sure that we're looking at getting pieces of equipment that helps facilitate that too. So, and that's what we're planning for the fitness center for next year. Any questions on the fitness center? Okay. So the next one, page 7, athletics, soccer goals, portable fence for hard. Really, it's kind of all we're looking at. So.
When you say soccer goals,
Yeah.
that's for all the soccer fields or just?
The replacement of the sets, the typical soccer goal set is between $3,000 and $4,000.
Do we get any, how much participation do we get financially from the soccer?
Well, if we got those, it would be our own in-house program that they ran. This purchases that they want in, we have to be able to sustain an adult league in order to get it. But if that adult league doesn't run, there will be no need to buy these.
So this is amazing.
This is amazing.
Portable fence at Hara, what's the portable fence at Hara for?
It's really hard to compete with Glenview, Northbrook, Hartford, places that have such small fields for adult leagues. The equipment expressed by our adult softball clientele that if we can at least get a portable fence out there so we can score home runs accurately, that it may be more non-reluctant to go elsewhere and come into our facility and join our leagues more.
How many teams do we have?
In the summer, just on shy of 20. That's between 16-inch, 12-inch, and co-ed. And the fall it drops off from there.
We don't have a full roster.
Our own team?
No. I mean, at one time, there was waiting lists for the football.
No, I mean, unfortunately, there's all these parks around here that have complexes where there's 4 diamonds and they run tournaments and have like to sell beer and draws all the clientele there.
Our staff would put the fence up.
They would be just seasonal go up, obviously you have to take down around more grill days. It's really not that big of a fence. It holds up pretty small. More. It's nicer though, it's a mesh material. It's nice looking.
We can't just chalk the line and say that's it.
Yeah, no, you still have to run to get the ball, you have to keep playing, and don't, yeah, so. All right, aquatic, really nothing for this year, but as again, you can see as we plan out further and further. So, then administration, as you see for next year, we have the HVAC controls, the HVAC replacement, program TVs, message board upgrade, gym divider, floor window replacements, upper office at Manassas carpeting. There's the BSI.
We pay for the carpet on the answer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is our.
So we're gonna spend $20,000. Okay, we're gonna get a $12,000 raise.
Okay, well, I mean, it's for up here and for there. I can certainly go to Manassas and ask, but right now the only thing that we can negotiate on the agreement is the rent. After 2021, then we can renegotiate all terms of the contract for the agreement. So it's our space. We gotta maintain it. Then there's your voiceover IP. Marty, you want to explain that a little bit?
Our phone system, we have a Nortel phone system that's getting older. It's not, Nortel's out of business now. They got bought out by Bahia. So, but anyway, so we, in order to update our phone system, from breaking down the time in the last 3 months that we're looking at a phone system that voice over IP runs it off of the computer, the Cat5 lines instead of regular phone lines, Cat3.
Right. Website redesign. It's actually anytime that we want to make changes to the website, we have to go to the vendor. The vendor charges us. So hopefully, as of right now, we're pretty good.
We're pretty good. We'll anticipate about $2,500 of upgrades with the DSI. But we just give ourselves a little padding room there in case we can tweak it a little bit in the future.
Right, and then the strategic plan, Beauregard, which would be our next discussion, before we get in here, however, based on the discussion, bounce house, and then.
Well, wait, let's talk about the bounce house.
Certainly.
So,
I didn't mean to glass over it, just going down the list, anytime that you want to go and talk about the whole list, we can talk about the whole.
for family nights, day camps, special events, I mean, we rent bounce houses, and these things range between $400 and $600 sometimes just to rent the piece, and it would pay for itself in 1 year, rather than us spending money.
So we're still gonna charge.
Well, like family nights, yeah, we charge $2, they come in, or $3, whatever it is, they come in for the family night.
This is internal use only, we're not going to do renting and out.
Well, if it's an amenity to someone renting or whatnot, I mean.
Then,
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's gonna be for rental purposes, it's more for programming purposes, so like, day camps out at Park Park, if they want to have a special event and rent the bounce house, rather than spending $600 out of our program expenses, we have the supplies in-house.
What about the liability?
Yeah, if it's ours, we're not renting it.
You know, I see a lot of park districts have them. As long as you follow the DERMA guidelines, and the DERMA guidelines are pretty much don't use it in conditions outside, make sure that the holes, if there's no holes in it, make sure it's properly secured. There's no issue. The only liability with the bounce house is really because of trampolines. That's what the DERMA does not want park districts to do.
Well, I understand the reason for doing it, but I would like to see a written policy for the use, how it's gonna be used, where it's gonna be used, who's gonna be allowed to use it. Yeah, you know, so that,
The training and
well, yeah, so we don't have this thing where it gets away from us in the future. In the beginning, it all starts out nice, and 5 years from now, well, this so-and-so wanted to use it, so we put it up, and, you know. I mean, if they're gonna have something at the school for their craft fair night, or their family fun night or something like that, can you guys put your bounds, what's the procedure? What's the policy?
And this is going to be more our internal program. Right.
That I understand, but like when 67 calls and asks us to pull a trailer for hay rides, if they know we've got a bounce house, don't you think they're gonna call us and say, can we use your bounce house?
Yes, and that the policy will be clear that it's for
Right.
internally
And there'll be a fee for that,
not
too.
be,
Well, I don't wanna sit there and necessarily deny them, you know, to be a good working partner. I just wanna make sure that we've got a clear-cut policy that we're protected, and there's an understanding so it doesn't get away from us.
And I know several agencies that use this, so I'll reach out to them before a purchase does happen.
Like I said, I don't want to deny, be a bad neighbor to the school districts or anybody, just so long as we have an understanding. We just don't want to cut it loose and let them, us set it up and we leave. And, you know, Greg comes to pick the thing up and there's 4 holes in it, and, you know, the ambulance is carting somebody away because nobody knew what they were doing.
Sure. Right. We'll do that. Any questions about the capital plan?
The whole thing?
Pardon?
The whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, just general feedback.
I know we're just, the dog park is in a preliminary state, you know, discussion, and, there's no concrete plan on how we're gonna finance the dog park, if we are gonna go ahead with it. So I'm wondering if this is subject to change, if this, you know, leaves open the contingencies for whatever decision is made on the dog park event.
Yes, so I mean, it's very dynamic. Again, you know, things can come off, things can go on, things can be shifted, you know, later days, bring it forward and stuff like that.
We still vote on these things.
Yes, right.
We still vote on all the expenditures before we're done.
Right, no, I think it's a great idea.
I just didn't see anything on there, and I'm guessing that the reason is because nothing is, you know, the committee and staff and the
Right.
board hasn't reached any decision on how to proceed with that yet.
Right.
And, or if to proceed with it, and so that's why I'm bringing that.
Right, so let me just, since you brought it up, and March 10th is the next advisory meeting, at which I will present to them what the landscape architect has come up with, a conceptual plan and guaranteed maximum price, just for the construction of that thing. So then we were going to look at it, make some suggestions, things like that, take it back to the landscape architect so that they can really finalize that number, and, you know, if it requires civil engineering, that sort of thing, they need to present the proposal for that as well. So then I can in turn bring that, and part of that discussion on the 10th will be, okay, here's the reality, this is how much it's going to cost, on the minimum, how do you want to fund this? Because we can present the plan here, it's like we don't really have a whole lot of flexibility here. I mean, we could probably try to build up a reserve fund, but, you know, as the way I explained to me.
Right, and I have
we
some
don't
thoughts
fund
on that
those.
too, but I don't want to bring it up now, because it's not on the agenda. It's not in this
Yeah, no,
agenda
it's
today.
just part of a general discussion regarding capital plan.
Okay.
Which, but go back to something that I think we should do, and take some time for people to work it out, put some kind of a sponsor policy for the district. a written sponsor policy. What we could go for sponsorship to offer a cost or what is inappropriate.
Well, I'd be curious to know what other jurisdictions that have a dog park, what they make on guests too.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I would like to have some idea of what we can pull in to receive the project, not just what it costs, but what we might.
Oh, sure, they're gonna bring that to us when we're ready to talk.
Yeah.
Right,
So it's-
yeah, that is, yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not talking a lot of money from, sales. I will tell you that there is a possibility of, a second party wishing to, be part of it, so, that's great, that would help reduce our costs, however, what does that, mean to the use? There's still a lot of parks here
Yeah.
that I still have to figure out.
Yeah, and let's bring this back on March 10th, you said?
That's the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else about the capital plan? Great.
If I may, recreation facilities programming, Dorgard.
Great. So now, we've had several discussions, and we wanted to make sure that every board member had an opportunity to be part of the discussion about what we wanted to do with Beauregard, and how we want to protect the park. So I would leave it up to you to decide which one of the options that are in front of you to do that. Some people are really, for this. Some have questions. I'm not sure, where to go with this. So, just asking you for direction.
Is this general discussion, or is there a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. There is a motion.
Well,
Yeah.
we should probably discuss.
Well, you can't discuss it until you make a motion.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
My mistake.
Is this under recommended facility?
Yeah, it should be, I believe.
Well, it says here, we move to accept the recommendation of the Recreation and Facility Program to approve the proposal for the purchase of a new center. And I feel that we should just go with the
Is that
third
your-
proposal.
Your motion, is there a second?
I just want to clarify the motion. You're proposing option 3?
Yes.
I second.
Discussion, well, I'm confused because you're making it specific to that. So if that dies, then what?
Then we go to a different option.
Well, I say that option because, no matter where you are, like where I live in the east side of town, when the alarm goes off on Tuesdays, it's quite beautiful. As a matter of fact, it's strong enough sometimes the windows shake. So, we don't really need there.
But it's a different notification system than the program.
This only monitors, I got a little more additional information from our last meeting. Each sensor only monitors a half mile, 360-degree circumference. So that's why it's imperative to have these sensors in every location, because if you're relying on Prairie View to cover Mansfield, it's not going to happen.
Well, I think you're wrong, but it's not good. That's why I go with option 3.
I've commented on this before, and I've done some research. I think we should have something. Don, you likened it to an electricity generator, and I mean, there's an electricity generator in my backup. It gives, you're saying peace of mind. And I'm all for having some peace of mind. I just think it's a little bit different than a generator, because generator, you know what it's going to do. You know that energy is coming in, if the energy fails and the first line fails. With a lightning detector, I know it measures probability of lightning, but I'm really not sold that any amount of technology, I'm just not convinced it's 100% accurate. I'll go with what the group wants, but I'd like to try out the small package and see how it works and we can always go up. It's harder to take off the, can't, if we get it, that's it. You can't take it away. And this stuff isn't foolproof. I haven't found anything super negative about FloorGuard, because I did some research because I felt like I was only hearing one side of the story. So I'm looking to see if there's any complaints about FloorGuard. And I didn't really find anything too negative, but what I did find suggests to me that there could be costs down the line. The thing doesn't always work perfectly 100% of the time. Sometimes it needs to be tweaked. Sometimes there is some maintenance. And, you know, I feel I'll go with whatever, but I think it makes sense to try 3 first. And if we like option 3, we can always expand later. It's harder to contract than expand. I think, there's obviously going to be some implementation costs. Maintenance-wise, there could be costs later. We're dealing with computers, so there's going to be expenses when you're dealing with computers. Upgrade one source or another. I'm not aware of any, computer system in the history of humanity that doesn't require ongoing expenses.
The software is upgraded,
Yeah.
is a lifetime?
It's the maximum. For 5 years, it's free upgradable, and then after that, FloorGuard's never had an upgrade over $400. And it's maintenance free with the new system. The old system, yes, there was a lot of maintenance costs a year to clean all the sensors. When you replace the sensors with the new system, you do not need to maintain it. It's zero maintenance.
Very skeptical. But okay, I'm just saying, you know what? I'm flexible with the group and what they want to do, but if you're asking my opinion, I would start with a small package, and then we can always up. Can't do it the other way around.
No, I mean, we can certainly do that. Yeah, I'm not, we'll have to check with FloorGuard, but and assume that, the cost would probably be greater because you're doing it piecemeal rather than doing it all at once. But to be honest with you, I don't know. I would have to check with them.
Okay, what about, so is it Mansfield? There's a park on, it's by a bigger park. It's a small park. I'm just thinking of it as an example. I think it's on Church and,
That's Mansfield.
that is Mansfield. It's like 2 blocks south of it though. There's this tiny park with like a slide and nothing else.
Arnhem?
Yeah, is it
Arnhem?
Church?
Arnhem's at Church and
Or Shermer.
Nash.
Arnhem's very close to National.
That's what I'm saying. I think Arnhem.
Yeah, okay. I get them mixed up all the time, Mansfield and National. But I don't know. But this tiny park, okay? So if we get package 1, is the FloorGuard going to be in that park?
Yes, there's a full site, all sites, all facilities. And keep
Yeah,
in mind,
I mean-
FloorGuard's not only meant for hearing, but for the visually impaired too. That's why it has a strobe light. Because the deaf people in the community, they can see the strobe light flashing.
My fear is if we do this piecemeal, it doesn't open us to liability because we're covering it at this part, but we're not covering it at that sort of thing. God forbid something happens in the park, we don't have that system now.
I thought of that too. I mean, my response, you can agree or disagree. My thoughts on that would be that we're not being negligent. I mean, we're talking about technology that's supposed to create lightning. And there are people who might agree that it's not an exact science. You can get as close as possible. And I just don't know that. I mean, it's not unreasonable to start at the big parks and see that it works, that it works like we want it to do, that it does what we want it to do, and then upgrade. I understand that some people who want it at the smaller parks are going to be like, why didn't you get it at these smaller parks? But we do have a reason. We're not, at least I'm advancing the reason, that it's because we want to make sure this is the technology we want at our park, and we're implementing it on
And
a...
again, I can say to that, we were one of the last districts to get this system. Softball was the big proponent of it when this system came out. It was for softball reasons. It kids playing these, which it's been proven it has saved lives. So, again, I go back to, we do it in the bigger parks and not the smaller parks. What are we opening ourselves up?
Okay,
And, it's a safeguard system. It's not proven definite 100%. That's not the idea behind it. It's like tornado sirens.
Yeah.
He's talking about. That's not a 100% proven system either. They don't go off at the right times. So, I'm saying we either do this full bore or we don't do it at all. That's my view. And again, because the phone calls that staff is probably going to get that, how come you have it at car, but you don't have it at arm? My 2-year-old goes down that slide and it's, raining and lightning, and we should be out there anyway.
right.
But, that's what happens.
Do we have softball at Austin?
Yeah.
We do. Well, I remember. Do we really need option 1 at all the parks?
Well, I guess that's my question is, how far is that liability? I definitely agree with number 2, but.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's also the theory, if we're talking about liability, that if we put this stuff up and it doesn't work, then, and somebody gets hurt, then you got 100%. We're involved in a lawsuit. Even if we were to blame it on Thorgard, we're still involved. And one could argue that we're opening up ourselves to more liability by bringing this stuff in.
Well, on the other end too, if somebody gets hurt and we don't have that system, all the other districts and villages around this have it. How come we don't have it?
But do they have it at tiny parks?
They do.
Where?
Niles has it at every park. Glenview has all their major parks, so like around in our case.
I can use surrounding parks.
But I think you're confusing the tornado sirens with this system, Thorgard. This Thorgard is a different sound than the areas.
Keep in mind, this is also a
It's more
house
piercing.
that.
Yeah, I know. But at these tiny parks I'm talking about, we're not having staff, we're not having events, and so that's why I'm thinking now more, when I'm seeing Austin, what you're saying about softball, I think one of the biggest advantages of this is the tool it provides for staff. Because if I was a head, I'm trying to put myself in another's shoes, and if I was a head lifeguard or an administrator of softball programs, I would feel a lot more comfortable having this system and something to point to, so I'm not canceling softball games. And
Nobody
it's not
argues
on
with the
me.
system either,
It's
right.
not on me
Exactly.
for it's like, hey, the system's going off, I gotta clear the field. And conversely, I don't have it hanging over my head if I keep the games going. What if somebody gets hurt? Then I'm gonna carry that with me, So I can see having it at any park where staff's going to have it on them to regulate activities. But I'm still not sure we need it in every single park to do that. And so, maybe 2 is the better option. I don't know. But if 3 people want 1, then we're gonna go with 1. I know I'm not the only commissioner to express doubts about going with 1.
Well,
So
two is better than 3. I mean, there's no question about it.
what do you want to do?
Huh?
What do you want to do?
Personally, I feel more comfortable, like I said, originally on 1, because you're covering all your bases. I know there's not, it's just something that we're thinking of the residents of this community. And they're on our parks, they're in our parks.
What about NIMBY? What if you're living next to one of these smaller parks, and all of a sudden there are horns going off? And when we did the work on Oriole Pool, we had some complaints, and that was just a pool, building a pool. I think this thing's even louder.
The hours get adjusted accordingly by neighborhood. We can set the horns at specific times of day, make sure it doesn't go off at night, et cetera. That's unique to each facility.
Have we gotten feedback from residents about this? Have people been saying, why don't we have Thorgard? Because if that hasn't been,
Not in my.
okay. Because if that hasn't been happening, and somebody who lives next to, let's say somebody lives next to Akita, I mean, I didn't do enough research on that, and I do regret that. Talking to some people who live by, Okita, Lane Park, and saying, hey, we're thinking of doing this Thorgard thing. How would you feel about that? I mean, I don't know. If I was living next to one of these parks, I might have mixed feelings about having a horn blast.
I tell you, when I was a kid, I remember them going off in the Northford Park District. I'd be riding my bike around it, and I was young, but I was scared and told me to go home.
Yeah. No, because I had the same thing happen, and I was a kid when the horns went off and it didn't go home. So, people, I guess if people are stubborn, how much good is it going to do? If I was living next to, if I was retired and just wanted peace and quiet, and that's why some people do live in the suburbs rather than the city, you just want peace and quiet, you could have everybody's different. You could have a NIMBY living 2 houses down from a park and you might get some complaints. I don't know.
I don't want to speak for Commissioner Stackman or Piano, but it sounds like they're not in favor of 3. Where do you guys stand? And if I'm correct in that statement, where do you guys stand with 2 versus 1?
First of all, I'd like to comment that I find this very irregular that we're given 3 options on a motion with no recommendation from the committee. So which leads us into
We did get a
another.
recommendation.
No, we didn't. We got another 25-minute debate on an issue because it was never resolved in a committee meeting to go forward. That's the bottom line here.
Yes.
And if you vote as it is, as the motion was stated, you're going to have, and it doesn't make it, you got to go back and do it again and do it again. This is somewhat irregular because it was not recommended and moved forward from committee. And I understand the reasons why. You're a lawyer, I understand that. I'm just a little guy that's been at a lot of these meetings and been involved in this stuff for a long time. And I remember when I first got involved, liability was the big topic. Whether we have this or we don't have this, if the suit comes forward, it's going to cost this district a lot of money to fight it if we win or lose. If we don't, but now, we mentioned that we're thinking about doing it. If we don't do it now, I think we're more susceptible to a lawsuit if somebody gets it than before because you talked about it, mitigated, and if you have someone coming in front of us now and their 8-year-old granddaughter or their son died because hit by lightning because we didn't want to spend $20,000 more for this system and my son's dead, my grandson's dead, what do we say then? What do we do then? Well, we didn't want to spend the money, and how do we know the law would be sued? Those arguments aren't going to carry any weight if somebody gets hurt or dies. I personally, if it was never brought up, I never would have gone into initiating. But it was brought up, talked about at public meetings, and I think now that it has been and we're debating it, if we don't do everything we can, we're negligent as elected officials.
But if we get the stuff and there's a malfunction with the stuff, then we
Then the
definitely
company is
have a-
more liable than we are.
Yeah, but we still get dragged into it and there's
But
still
the fact of the
expense,
matter
like you
is
said,
that we
if
don't
win or
do it, we're
lose.
gonna get sued and anyhow. That's my personal feelings on it right now.
So you'll want to go with which one?
Well, he's talking about going.
If we're debating, I would debate to go all in or all out.
That's yours, that's yours. So we're going to vote on this motion?
Yeah, you have to, it's on the floor, it's been seconded. If discussion has ended,
Councilmember
more to be
Rundle?
said, take the
I
vote.
have one more thing. Did we talk to the school districts and village about the shared cost?
I did reach out to 70 has not come back to me, 67, 67. If we did go to the village that would increase the cost because they're going to want more coverage. So I did not, based on informal conversations that I had, I didn't think that would be a cost.
So we're going to vote on the
Option 3.
Option 3, okay.
Commissioner Ashton?
Nay.
Commissioner Romero?
Nay.
Commissioner Corsi? Commissioner Birdie?
Nay.
Commissioner Stafford?
Nay.
We have a
we look at option 1 for all parks in the amount of $70,795.
Well said.
Commissioner Romano?
Aye.
Commissioner Corsi? No. Commissioner Birdie?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashton?
Aye.
Commissioner Stanton?
Okay, I don't know if you can do that in executive session, but I would like to go back to the records report.
Yes, so just wanted to give the board heads up on Monday. Dan and I will be meeting with some residents to discuss the possible formation of a foundation. So Morton Grove Parks Foundation will be a fundraising arm of the Park District to do just that. They can identify capital projects or initiatives, and they can fund those. And the first thing that we're going to do, and staff is pretty excited about this, is next December we are planning for a holidays market, very similar to a Chris Kringle market here at Prairie View. We're brainstorming ideas about how different kind of vendors that we can bring in. How we can tie Sandpit coming to town into that as well. And this would be a really good springboard for a foundation to sort of take over once we get this thing started as an opportunity for them to begin working on behalf of our district.
Jeff was going to bring this up last Wednesday at our regular meeting, but the fact that it was canceled and brought up to today, and the fact that staff must get going with the holiday market thing, kind of expedited getting some people to start trying to maybe get a foundation. Jeff and I went to a seminar, a conference, from the National Association of Park District Foundation, which I think Don Jensen is the chairman of. Remember Don Jensen?
Yeah.
And Ron Lehman, he's on that board. So they were very helpful, a lot of information. What we can do and we can't do with foundation. Don't expect it to raise tens of thousands of dollars for us, but it would give another outreach in the community of people that would support the Park District. So if anybody knows anybody that'd be interested, we're going to meet up here at 12:30 on Monday. Doug Steinman's going to be. I asked Doug to get involved, and we can't say enough about Doug's involvement and how positive he is. So if anybody wants to come, or knows anybody that would like to be involved in. And we don't know if it'll go or not, but we need to start kicking some ideas around. So we're going to do that on Monday at 12:30. Okay? So that's all we have there. And I have a motion for an executive session.
I'll make a motion for the board to go into closed session in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, section 120/2C1, and for section 120/2C11.
Do a second.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Corsi? Commissioner Birdie?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashton?
Aye.
Commissioner Romano?
All right. Thank you all. Quick thing on the new business.
Yeah, quick thing under new business. There's a legislative breakfast on Monday.
Yes, there is.
Where is it again?
It's in Greenview at the Grove. Yeah, I'll send,
That's what I
email
thought.
you.
What time does it start?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. at the Grove. Okay.
So,
Who's going?
Dan, how did you report it?
I definitely went.
You said.
Okay. Dealing with some health stuff, and I had some stuff back up.
Motion? Close the meeting.
Yeah.
Second?
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Well,